Hey, what's up? I'm Jacob Blitzo, your Elixir Mentor, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Elixir Mentor Podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to Elixir, from interviews with enthusiasts, pioneers in the community, to innovative projects and libraries shaping Elixir's future. So let's get started. Today, I'm stoked to have Peter Ullrich joining us. Peter is a highly skilled and knowledgeable individual in the Elixir community with a wide range of expertise and abilities. A developer, an author, public speaker, and a blogger. With a unique background in psychology, Peter brings a fresh perspective to the software development and architecture world. Peter, welcome to the show. And to kick things off, could you share a little bit about your journey from psychology to software development?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. All right. Well, it's a long story, to be honest, but we got time. So let me start at the beginning. So when I started studying psychology, that was with 21. I really liked it, and I love psychology. My mom is a doctor, a general practitioner, and I always love the side of her work, which is to help other people and make their life better. And psychology was really interesting to me because, so much in our world is it's social interaction. Almost everything, even coding. More and more even programming. So that I found really interesting. So I did the bachelor in psychology, but towards the end of the bachelor, I kind of realized that this whole theoretical aspect of psychology, it just doesn't work for me. It's not a match. So I find it really interesting, but I always found it really hard to remember all the theories and so on. So eventually I decided to go a different route. And at the time, my girlfriend at the time, she had a friend who was a professional developer. He was a .NET developer, actually. And he had his own agency, and he was part of this hacker group that met once a week, and they were just tinkering around with some hardware, Arduinos, and so on. And I just tagged along because I found it really interesting. And eventually, he took me under his wing, and he just showed me the ropes. And I had ideas already of things I wanted to implement. And I've been coding already before that for quite a while, ever since I'm 15, 16. I tinkered, I coded. I did some Perl scripts back in the day. That was horrible. But for me, the biggest problem was always that I didn't have somebody that just showed me the easy things in the beginning, that just shows me how to create a website and get a project up and running. So with only 23, 24 at the time, then I got that friend, and he just showed me how to do the basic things. So the first things that I did actually were I coded some PHP scripts to crawl the university website for 404 links, because I was really annoyed as a student whenever I had a documentation, a website in front of me. And then I was like, okay, well, I need this information, how to graduate, and you click a link, and then it leads you to a 404. And I found it really annoying. So I wrote this web crawler for the university website in PHP, and he helped me with it a lot. So eventually I crawled the website, found 50 broken links, and I reported all of that to the IT department of the university. And unfortunately, they never responded to me. I guess because they're more annoying, a lot of annoying computer science students at the university, and I guess they just heard that already a million times. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's really funny. One of my first projects was Java, and I made a web scraper that would crawl through Google addresses and snatch in that time I was working in the manufacturing world, so I would steal dental addresses and dry cleaner addresses for our mailing list. And it was right before Google limited how many pages you could go through.
Oh.
And that was a fun project, but I don't miss writing Java.
Nah, me neither. I had to do it in university eventually, and then later actually I worked with Java for my master thesis in computer science, but these were the only two big projects I had, and I was happy to go away. Yeah. Actually, yeah, like PHP, that already showed me how, small and concise things can be. Like, I didn't like PHP at the time, but it showed me like, yeah, you can just do everything you want with like 25 lines of code. So that was great, yeah. And yeah, after I like tinkered around with that a little bit, I decided, okay, I want to dive more into computer science. And the last half year of my bachelor, I could choose courses from computer science at my university. And I was still unsure whether this thing like computer science is something for me. So I chose two courses. They were called Software Engineering 1 and 2. And these courses, still like the best courses I had in my whole career, they how you say, simulated like a real world engineering project.
Okay.
So they put students together in groups of like 8 to 10 people, so like one pretty big team, and then they connected them with real world clients. Like our client, he was in the hardware industry, and yeah, they needed some pet project, and our client actually, that was pretty funny. The office of the client, they were just behind a bridge, like a drawbridge that we have here in the Netherlands a lot. So whenever a ship comes, that bridge opens and the cars have to wait, and the ship can go through. And this client, he wanted to have an app that would predict when that bridge would open so that he can take the alternative route around that bridge. There was a second bridge in the south. So when he came in the morning to the office, he wanted to have an app that tells him, hey, don't take the northern bridge because it's going to open in 3 minutes. Take the southern bridge because that's going to be, closed when you arrive. So that was a pretty fun project. Yeah.
That's really cool that they simulated such a real dev environment too, with like a group project. I love that.
Definitely.
So you ended up graduating with a computer science degree.
Yeah. I do have a master in software architecture and system design or something like that. I always forget the right title.
Okay, nice.
But it's a master of software engineering, basically. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. That's awesome. What brought you to Elixir and made that your language of choice?
Right. Well, during my master's, I worked a lot with Python at the time, because everything I did on the side, like in my own side projects, I did everything with Python. And then when I finished university, I was looking for a Python job actually, but there's surprisingly few Python jobs. And I was in Germany, like in Cologne, and there were none really, no Python jobs. However, there was one, and I applied to it, and they accepted me, and eventually from day one they made me write Elixir. And I still remember like when they made me the offer, they told me like, you're a Python developer and we have Python projects, but we have many more Elixir projects. So would you feel comfortable writing Elixir? And I still remember that I was very, very skeptical. That was around like 2018. Okay. And I was still very skeptical because Elixir was, I never heard about Elixir. I didn't know what it was. It was such a niche language. And I really worried that if I would choose this job, that I would put myself in a niche that doesn't have a future, right? Because there are a million .NET and Java jobs out there. Still, if you do like PHP even, or, something like that, like you will find hundreds and thousands of jobs. But if you look at Elixir, it became better in the last years and the community is growing, but it is very far from, the Python community, the PHP community, JavaScript, don't just forget about that already. So yeah, anyway, long story short, that's how I ended up writing Elixir from day one, because eventually I decided, I'm just going to give it a go. If it doesn't work out within a year or two, I can switch to something different. And eventually it paid off. And after 5.5 years or so, I'm still writing Elixir every day, 9 to 5. And I don't want to switch.
Yeah. Well, Elixir is still a very difficult space to find work in, I would say consistently at least.
Yeah. I see for senior developers it's easy or easier, but if you're junior developer or media, it's very, very tough.
I kind of feel like the development world, like across all the tech stacks, it's more senior driven now than a lot of junior positions.
Definitely, yeah. I see that a lot where also friends of mine who are already senior, they struggle to find a job, and because they only have like 3 years maybe of experience and not like a big track record of side projects they can show. So it is more difficult, but I still think in the Elixir space, I see many companies that still post an Elixir forum and other platforms.
That's good. Yeah, I've been writing Elixir for just over 3 years now, and I don't think I'll ever turn back.
What did you before?
I did a lot of Swift. I was an iOS developer, and then I was like Node.js, Express, and the JavaScript stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I did a lot of back-end work with JavaScript.
Oh. So the backend was in JavaScript, and then you had an app.
And then I would do a lot of like Swift for front-end iOS apps.
So do you still do that? Do you still use Swift?
Well, if I'm writing a native iOS app, yes. And like my day job is a custom software app development company, but I would say we're doing mostly web applications these days, but every once in a while we have to make the mobile apps for people.
Okay. And the web apps that you build, is that in live view now, or what do you use?
Depending on requirements, if we don't have to do like offline support and things, I usually push live view, and our backends are almost always Elixir and Phoenix.
Okay.
Just because I prefer working in it so much more than anything else.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. I'm curious. What's your opinion about React? Live view native instead of using Swift, or in general, what do you think about like React Native, Flutter, Swift?
I think they've come a long way. So if you're not really leveraging specific tech on the phone, I think you should do like Live Native or React Native or Native Script or something like that. I would much rather have one code base versus 3.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a good friend who works in Flutter. He's a Flutter expert, and I also looked into that, and it was really nice. But eventually, like it's very hard to make it look like an iOS app, for example, if you use Flutter. Like you always see the difference, and then I'm not sure whether it's probably one of these things where the client cares about it much too much than they should.
Oh man, everyone's hearing my echo.
Aye, okay.
Shoot. I am hearing it, guys. You can tell I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, no worries.
That's funny. Dang. Well, we might just have to have you mute and unmute, Peter. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. For the stream, the issue here is like when I mute myself, but only in the app, then it stops the sound. So I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah, adapt on the fly. It's like pushing to production on a Friday night, right?
I guess it is, yeah. But I'm sorry. I hope it's not on my side though. But I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I think there might be a video issue. I might have to figure out a better way to stream my guests on here, because I've noticed weirder things happening every time I stream now. It worked out perfect like the first 2 or 3 streams, and then weird stuff is happening. So I'll have to dig into this and figure it out. Sorry guys for that. So
is it better now?
Yeah, it's better if you're muted, I think. Like I don't hear myself currently. Now, what do you do to stay up to date on like latest trends and best practices in your software development? practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. And well, the issue there is like there's so many different sources. I follow quite. Basically, I get most of my information through Twitter. I refuse to say X to it. It's still Twitter for me. So yeah, whatever scroll like comes through my timeline, especially blog posts. I love reading those. I just read up on them, and then whenever there's a big change, like a big announcement, usually there's like something comes through the Twitter timeline as well. So that's how I keep up to date. I subscribe to the regular newsletters like Elixir Radar, Elixir Merge, one or two others, and I whenever I get one of these, I just look through the article list, the blog post list, and when it's interesting, then I read those. Yeah, and then I go to ElixirConf regularly. I would say that's actually also a pretty good way to keep up with things. It's not a good way to actually learn about something, to be honest. Like, but it's a problem of every conference. I don't think that you can actually give a lot of knowledge or like transfer a lot of knowledge in like 30 minutes that you have on the stage. So every conference talk that I gave and also that I listened to is usually a primer on the topic. And you go to the talk and you realize, hey, this is an interesting topic. I would love to learn more. And then you go home and you read up on it. So that's usually how I get my inspiration, at least from conferences. And yeah, otherwise just write blog posts, tweet about them, and I will see them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I use Twitter for a lot of things. It's hard for me to say X too. I'm trying to adapt, but it's weird. Conferences are good, right? You get flooded with a lot of information, but at least you kind of know what you want to look into when you have time to kind of unwind everything that you've just heard about. And since like the COVID days, it's been a while since I've been back to a conference, and I'm pretty excited. I'm making my way out to Lisbon this year, so I'll be there, and hopefully I get to meet a bunch of people and learn a lot of new stuff.
Well, I'll be there, so at least we meet.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to meet.
Awesome.
Yeah, we definitely have to meet.
Yeah. You're in the US, right?
Yeah, I'm in the Utah area. So west.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, I love it. Good mountains, get to go skiing and rock climbing and get outside a little bit.
Yeah, I did a road trip back in the day with my father. He's a geophysicist, so he works with gas and oil. He used to work with gas and oil. And the Colorado, Denver area, that is super active for geological science. So he always went there for conferences to learn about how to extract gas. And we did a road trip back in the day from Houston all the way through Denver, Colorado to Utah, Salt Lake City. And the last part, just driving through the Rocky Mountains, that was really, really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. Dude, I want to solve this audio issue so badly, but I don't think it's going to happen during the stream. I'll try to not let it distract me.
Yeah, it's okay now though, right? Like if I mute myself, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right, no problem.
Yeah, so let's see. Conferences, Twitter, blog posts. Do you find your best way to like actually absorb a new topic is to either write about it or teach about it?
Yeah, that's true. And that is also, to be honest, why I have my blog posts, and that's why I gave all these conference talks. Because I learned that I learn best if I want to teach it. So when I want to dive into a topic or I want to learn more about a topic, I kind of just set myself up so that I have to either write something or give a talk about something. For example, I gave a talk at ElixirConf 2020, I think. That was the virtual ElixirConf. And I gave a talk about event sourcing. And I used event sourcing in my day job, but I never fully understood it. It's one of these things where your very senior colleagues, they wrote this great API that you know how to call and when to call, but you don't know why you call it, basically. So I took that chance when the call for speakers came up for the ElixirConf to just think, well, I want to learn more about this, so I'm going to propose a talk about event sourcing. Yeah, and then, well, I kind of had to do that, right? I kind of had to dive into the topic, and I think eventually it became a pretty good talk. Um, and eventually I came out of it with a really firm understanding of the topic, and that's always how I learned, and that's also why I started my blog post, because I realized there were these many small details that I was learning every day in my day job that are either interesting to share or that I would like to explore a bit more. Like, just you build something and you ship it and it's done, but you're like, yeah, I kind of want to dive into that a bit more, to understand, like, maybe we can improve it or not. Or I also had that situation where other like colleagues of mine, they wrote a great piece of software, like a code, part of the code, and I wanted to understand how it works. And of course, you can kind of look through it, and then you come away with a feeling, oh, I understood it, but eventually, like, you can't replicate it because you haven't understood it in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for example, is why I wrote the roles and permission blog post about the wrap, basically. There are two blog posts about how to create a role and permission system with Phoenix and Ecto, and they were basically like I say a blueprint. Not quite a blueprint, but they were inspired by the code base that I was working with at the time. But it's a much more condensed example of that code base. But yeah, that was one of these things where I just wanted to write about it, to understand it really in depth, and then eventually also to have an archive for myself where in the future, if I realize, oh, I have the same problem again, I just go back to my own blog post, reread it, and implement it again. That actually happens surprisingly often. So yeah, that's how I learn.
Yeah, I believe that. When I first started my YouTube channel, I realized how difficult it is to, I guess, like, communicate how something works versus just like doing and writing code every day. Because I learned Elixir kind of on my own, obviously, like through, all the Elixir books and whatever documentation I could get my hands on. But it was still a very rough learning curve for me. So I was like, you know what? I used to do learn to code tutorials. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. And it kind of sets you back because I was like, you know what? I'm going to just teach the basics. And that's kind of where I started. But just starting at the basics, it's really hard to like regurgitate and explain basic concepts to people. So overall, though, it's such a good reinforcement of skills, and it really forces you to understand what you're using versus just kind of using it. Because when you're building a platform, you're just writing code and making features work. You don't really care how things are working or even think about explaining them half the time. So yeah, it's definitely a good way to kind of concrete your knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, diving into these details, that is one of the most important things you can do if you want to become a better software engineer. Because what I see and what I also saw a lot through my career, well, I say through my career, but it's been like 5.5 years, but I sound like a 20-year-old, somebody who has been 2 decades in the industry. But anyway, so still, what I saw a lot is that there are engineers who just want to get the thing done and then ship it, and they don't think about it again. And these engineers, they reach a certain level of like expertise, but then it kind of stops. And unfortunately, I saw these people, who had like 10 years of experience, but they weren't really that great, to be honest. And like, when you talk to them, it's kind of like, yeah, they understood everything that they work with only to a certain level, and they can't see behind that. They can't see why certain architectural decisions and software design decisions are important or not important. So in my case, for example, I progressed in my career extremely fast, I would say. I became senior after like 2.5 years. And then lately I was working on staff or principal level, like however you want to call it, but staff level. And that's also, now that I'm a freelancer, that's how I sell myself, as somebody that just get the stuff done, and I can build an entire system for you from 0 to 1 if you want to. And I've been working with other very great engineers who, are happy with my work, so that kind of shows me that I'm doing things right. But when, like, the reason I think why I progress so quickly is that I really look at the details something, and it's something like an itch where you build something and you ship it and it works, but you kind of like, yeah, I can make it better. I can make it, like, how can I improve this? For example, testing is a great topic that I think a lot of people underestimate, because if you write really good tests, you usually also write really good code. Nicely testable code, nicely readable code, code that you can easily refactor or replace if you need to. So anyway, long story short, I think what you also said is, like, if you wanna become a really good engineer, you have to start caring about the details of your work, and only that way you can reach the next level, so to say.
So I'm gonna agree with you. I felt like I was hitting like a very stagnant point in my career, because I came from manufacturing. I have an engineering degree, but not in computer science. So I kind of taught myself how to code, but I kind of stepped up the ranks very quick. Like, once I got my first like junior dev job, I rose up in like 2 years in the same company, and I'll say in quotes, I turned into a senior dev, but it was mostly I was just willing to like dive into things head first and figure it out. But then I still felt like I was hitting like a ceiling in my skill or my expertise, I guess. And when you start breaking things down and actually trying to understand what you're doing, that's kind of when you start to feel like you push through a plateau a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, you can understand that pretty well, I guess. Because also if you go into the details, you understand much more of the overall machinery. Let's say that your job is just to put wheels on a car, and that's okay. But if you don't understand how the wheels actually like turn, like what turns the wheels, how does the engine work, how does the power get from the engine to the wheels? If like, sure, you can put wheels on a car, but if you wanted to design your own wheels or improve the wheels that you work with, you would not know how to, because you don't know how the whole context works a little bit. Yeah. Sorry, maybe not such a good example.
No, I think it makes sense. Like, if you're only like, what is that, like, in a compartment and you don't know how the whole system works, you're not going to know anything but your wheels, right? So
Yeah, true.
no, I think that's good. What kind of advice would you give developers? I think a lot of my audience are new to Elixir, at least, maybe not necessarily new developers, but they're learning Elixir, they're just getting started. What kind of advice would you give them as they start their Elixir journey that you wish you might have had?
That's a good one. Yeah. Well, I guess so. There are two things. They're not super related, but one of them is, if you start with Elixir, I think the hardest part to understand is the functional aspect of it. That's a functional programming language, and that's different from object-oriented programming that you basically use in every other language when you start coding, I think. And to be honest, like for me, after 5.5 years now, I would not want to miss the functional aspect of Elixir. There's Ruby. Sure, it looks very similar. I work with Ruby, and it was a nightmare. Uh, um, I know people love Ruby, and there's good reason to love it. In my case, it just didn't click, because like I'm a very visual person, and if I see the code in front of me, I find it hard to remember all the global variables that were stored somewhere in state, and that I can just fetch magically out of the air and use in this function, right? That's how it works in Ruby and Rails, for example, where like out of a sudden you just have the current user and you don't know where it came from or where it was set, but it just exists. Um, and I like that of Elixir, where every parameter, like everything you have in a function, is what you get as a parameter. with some exceptions where like, you can fetch from like memory or state or whatever. But like if you just write a function, everything you get in, that's what you have. And that makes it super easy to reason about the code, to improve the code, to remove it, and so on. So that would be like my first advice. If you get into Elixir, don't fight it, like embrace the functional aspect of it. Don't make everything kind of like a struct or something. Just pass on maps or lists or individual. Don't be afraid of like having multiple functions that match against certain parameters. Like that is all things that's the good stuff. You don't want to fight that. So, but yeah, just be aware that is different.
Yeah, I love when like someone new to Elixir coming from like an object-oriented background, when pattern matching and just the functional side of things and like using the pipe operator finally click with them. And they're like, this is the most magical thing ever. And to be honest, my brain, I kind of wish I started with a functional language because that's how my brain works. Like, I agree with you. I'm kind of the same way. Object-oriented programming, it was the hardest concept for me to wrap my head around. And it took me a while to understand it and figure it out. And I want to say it was probably like 3 or 4 months that held me back from actually like being able to like create things. When I first started learning, I think it was Objective-C was the first language that I really started diving into. And it was a major drawback and it was hard. My brain does not work that way.
Mine neither, to be honest. Yeah. And I found it interesting because also in my studies, I had quite a lot of math and statistics. And if you figure out all these math equations, one thing you learn is that everything you have on both sides, like you only have what you have in your equation. Like you only have the things that are on the left side, you only have the things that are on the right side of the equation side. And in functional programming language, it's the same. And like you only have what you have in front of you and nothing more, with some exceptions, obviously. But that's why I find it interesting that out of a sudden, when you take, CS computer science students and then you teach them object-oriented languages, which are conceptually very different from what you taught them a semester earlier, which was like math, But anyway, I wanted to answer your question because you asked me about my tips for beginners of Elixir. And the second thing I wanted to mention is, in my experience, if you want to progress quickly, like do 2 things. Choose the most difficult problem that nobody else wants to tackle, especially as a junior and a meteor. Like there are many of these topics that seniors just don't want to do for the 100th time, but they are difficult topics and you need to learn how to fix some of them, So just choose those, embrace them, take the challenge, and then don't wait with asking for help from senior people, and try to surround yourself, if you can, try to surround yourself with very senior people who are happy to help you and are open for questions. Because like if you get stuck, what I saw unfortunately often is, people don't want to ask the seniors because they don't want to bother them and so on. But like I was never bothered when somebody asked me for advice about that. I was rather happy to help them and take some time off from just writing, the next controller with like CRUD endpoints, and to just, take half an hour and explain them how to, structure your logging or something like that. So these 2 things, just like embrace the very challenging parts and then ask for help if you get stuck.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how much you learn from like a senior's been through it, right? And there's reasons why things are done certain ways, why design patterns exist and all of that. And sometimes the quickest way to learn is just having a quick conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's true.
All right. So should we talk about your awesome platform that you kind of just took live, right? Indie courses. What inspired you to create kind of like a course content platform? Because there's a lot of them out there. And what made you want to jump on the bandwagon and also use LiveView for it?
Definitely, yeah. So uh, the whole thing simply is a solution for my own problem. And if other people want to use it, I'm more than happy. But obviously, I want other people to use it. So, the whole thing started when I created my own first video course last year, built an MVP with Elixir. And like that came after many different experiments. I had a podcast back in the day. I did a YouTube channel. I did a blog post. Like I tried out all these different mediums of writing and educating people and creating content. And eventually I realized, let's just try a video course. I've never done that before. So I decided to go with build an MVP with Elixir because I also think that the Elixir community is really focused on seniors. And often we forget to teach juniors and like beginners the very basics. Everybody talks about, hey, how great live view streaming works now. And juniors are like, okay, but how do I create a Phoenix application? Like these are the basics. And when I was part of the Python community in the beginning of my career, I love the Python community because they are so extremely beginner friendly. They really go and say, hey, you just picked up Python 3 months ago. Why don't you go give a conference talk and talk about your experience, and let's talk about what were the biggest problems you had, where did you struggle the most? And let's see, maybe we as a community can improve that experience for the next person who has to go through that. And I think that is a little bit missing in the Elixir community where, everything is very senior heavy. There are very, very few like resources that show just beginners how to literally create an application and deploy it to fly and have a domain pointing to it and, getting some payments, taking payments for it. So long story short, that's why I created the video course, built an MVP with Elixir. And yeah, after I finished it, I looked around for video course platforms. And I mean, you also have a video course and that there are many platforms, but not all of them are great. And the great ones that cost a lot of money usually. And right.
Yeah, I have my gripe for course platforms. I've checked out quite a few, and I saw like you posting on Twitter and all that stuff, and I just I never really took the time. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love when people are doing this stuff. And then I finally took the time and I watched your like onboarding video, and I was like, dude, I was already considering building my own just for Elixir Mentor. I didn't want to because I know it's going to take up so much of my time. But then when I saw yours, I was like, this is my answer. The UI, the UX, it looks good. And like currently I'm using Go High Level, and it's a too many solution platform. Like they solve too many problems and they don't do any of them well. So there's just too many annoyances. And so I did announce it this morning in my newsletter that went out, my newsletter email, that I'm officially moving my course to Indie Courses. So that's exciting. And I'll probably actually take it live and publish it after this live stream. So that's a exciting little announcement. I forgot where I was going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going.
And I just ask you about your platform.
What's that?
Oh, I just ask you about like your experience with video course platforms, because I wanted to say that's the reason why I created Indie Courses, because when I finished my video course, I had a look around like you did, and there are many courses like platforms out there, but they were not that good. I'm sorry, maybe you wanted to follow up?
No, I agree completely. And like currently where I'm hosted, it's not that it works fine, but it's also just really ugly. And it doesn't save your playback settings from video to video. And I think it's like little annoyances like that just it annoys you when you're going through a course and learning, because you don't want to constantly reset your settings on every video.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, like I didn't know that either, but then I got 3 people who complained about it to me, and I built it like a week ago or 2. So now it works on Indie Courses.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I will say, like, getting my course up on your platform went smoothly, and I feel like I was a little high maintenance for you because I was like, I need an endpoint for my Discord bot, and you're like, no problem. So that was my only hang up, and now that problem's solved.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it a lot actually. So indie courses, it's I think it's still younger than 2 months to be honest. I launched January 28th, so that is not even 2 months. Yeah, and I mean I built that thing, over 7, 8 months actually last year after the summer, in like just evenings and weekends. And yeah, it's just one of these things where you build it and you think, this is fine, this is good enough, and then you actually have users using it, and they're like, yeah, no, that sucks. Like this part needs to change, or I really need that feature,
Hmm.
and that's great because that's what you get from a young startup like indie courses, where like we chatted, I think, yesterday or the day before it was, or Tuesday, I think we chatted. And you said, yeah, I need this API, right? And I said, sure, I can build it by the end of the week. Just give me a couple of days. And yeah, I'm also very happy to say that I'm 80% done with it. So I will give you the information, I guess, tomorrow, and then you can have the API endpoint and everything.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's just that's the thing. Like I built it, I released it, and now I'm waiting for feedback from customers like yourself. I also have other people who really need, like, for example, I have another creator who really wanted to have these coming soon labels. So if you upload a video, you can say, like, this is my course, but I have like 10 lessons that are coming soon. I don't have them yet, but you will get them once they're released, and that kind of stuff. Like I haven't seen that on many other video course platforms. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually really happy to see the come in soon because my course, there's a good chunk of it done, but I have a lot more that I want to do. And it's nice to at least have the placeholder lessons in with that tag.
I saw your current video course, and you just write it in the text, I think. You say, like, hey, if there's a tick, then you can watch
Yeah.
it. If there's no tick, then you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just like my little like sales landing page. There wasn't a better way. There wasn't really a good way to do it. And that, I'm not saying that's a good way, but that's all I could figure out for now.
Yeah, it worked. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I see these kind of things, and I'm thinking, maybe I can do it a little bit better. Yeah. But so actually, like, one thing that maybe you can also, like, this is indie course related, so maybe it's not interesting for the stream, but let's, just a quick question, because a lot of these platforms, they offer you to, like, a website builder where you can build your own website, and then you have a landing page with only your course on it and information, and there's no real branding of whatever platform you're using. I don't know. I mean, it's great now, but I personally didn't want it. I didn't need it for my video course because it's such a hassle to create a whole website, just for like one course. So I rather wanted to have something like Udemy or Gumroad where it's the same interface for every video course. Um, but yeah, it's much quicker for you as a creator to just upload your videos and you're done, right? Just click one button. What's your take on custom websites?
I personally hate all website builders. I've never used one that I actually enjoy using. And in fact, when I was using Go High Level, when I first built my website just to get it quickly done, I used their builder and it was nasty. I just rewrote it actually using Live View and just like some static HTML, and it works so much better already. But personally, I don't like builders. And like for my course, like I'd much rather just have a good looking UI. Like when I go to indie courses and I don't have to think about the layout of my course or how I'm selling it, I would much rather just not have to think about it. So I'd much rather just route to your course page.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it was my thinking as well. Like, I didn't want to bother, and I also see that many, like, there's so many info products in general that people just throw on, like, they sell it through Gumroad or they sell it on Lemon Squeezy, and it's literally like, a very simple website. And I found that, like, that is fine, to be honest. If you want to sell a video course or a book or something else, like just upload it to one of these and people will buy it, if they're interested enough. They don't need to have a super fancy website, because usually you also give them information before they even reach the last website where they can click buy. So yeah, I think that's a little overrated, the website builders.
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, if people are a fan of indie courses, now I'm discoverable through that. And then I'm also discoverable through my own branding. So I feel like it just brings more awareness overall too, to be on more of a marketplace style than trying to do everything yourself and being your own unique sales point.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I created this indie course directory on indie courses. There's like a little at the top left, there's a thing. And what I saw is that a lot of these independent creators, they have unique websites like yourself, but then people can't find, like they can't explore these different courses all over the internet, right? Like they need to know you, and they need to know that you have a video course, and otherwise they will never find it. So on Udemy, for example, you have a marketplace, but then again, Udemy, that's their business model. So if they sell your video course through their marketplace, they take a 2/3, like a 67% cut from your profit. So that's obviously why the marketplace on Udemy is great, but it's not so great for creators. And like that's why on indie courses I wanted to do something where you have kind of like a marketplace. So if you search for indie courses, you will find my video course, you will find the second video course currently, which is by Matt, which is exploring Alpine.js, and then maybe your video course in the future as well. So like for me, it was important to create at least a website or like a directory where people can find video courses by independent creators. And because, I think these people, like I personally love to support independent creators and buy the info products because I know how hard the work is that they put into it, but also how much passion they have about it. And usually it's also people you can, if you have a question, you can just ping them and they will happily answer any question you have. So like that's why I'm so excited about indie courses. But I think they, like independent courses in general, they need to have a bigger, like how you say, a surface where people can find them,
Yeah, like a larger reach.
Exactly.
Yeah. I used to love Udemy, but I started getting turned off with all they do is push, that high discount thing versus quality courses. It's high discount and how many hours of content can you have? And you have to have that number up in like the 60, 80 hour content for a $10 course. And sure, you get a lot of exposure, but you also, I don't know, you have to kind of make a balance of what your time and content is worth.
Yeah. And unfortunately, also the quality of these courses is not as high then, because you can't make high quality video material for 80 hours unless you're a professional studio,
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, my video course is 6.5 hours, but I'm also aiming for more like 2 to 3 hours on the next one, so that I can really dive into the details and and also people, I don't think they love to sit down for 80 hours and watch a video course. Like very few people will actually watch all of it. So
I think 80 hours is overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, you know how long this is going to take me to get through?
I think that is almost all of the Lost series, like at least 8 seasons of the Lost series. And man, that was a long series.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's funny. I think like a comprehensive introduction Elixir course, it's going to be a longer course. It'll probably end up being, I don't know, probably like 15 hours ish, I think, by the end, maybe a little less than that. But then I think after that, I think it would be cooler to just do more kind of like mini courses where you teach one specific cool thing to do. Like once you have your basics, you can just do one thing. Like maybe, I don't know, you could do like one path or like magic link authentication, things like that, or streaming video. Like a lot of people, I was actually going to ask you how, if you don't mind sharing, are you using a specific service for streaming your video?
Yeah, I do. And actually, got to do a shout out there for Marcel Fahle, who's a good friend of mine. He's an Elixir developer as well. And he helped me with setting up the whole hosting infrastructure. I rewrote all of it again afterwards, after I like changed, things, but he set up the basics. So what I basically do is when you upload a video to indie courses, the first thing I do is I give you a pre-signed link to upload it to S3. So I have a bucket where I just keep all the video because I want to have the originals just lying there. And then after the upload is done, I send it over to mux.com. And they're really good streaming service. There's another one which is called Video API, I think. They're a little bit cheaper and not like, same premium service. And then at the high end, you got something like BitMoving. That is like the super high quality streaming service that is used by television shows, and it costs like a couple of $1,000s a month if you want to use it. But yeah, so in the middle you got Mux, and they're great. Like you just give them basically the link to the video in the S3 bucket. They fetch it and then they encode it. So that means they encode it into a video stream that is compatible with the most devices, because like video encoding and video streaming is a whole world of complexity and like super difficult. But like Mux takes care of that. They just encode it, and then I have a player on my website where I just give it like the ID of the video basically, and then it fetches the right stream and also in the right quality. Because like, for example, from YouTube, where if you're on the mobile phone, like you have a lower quality stream with fewer pixels than if you're on a big 4K monitor with your home internet connection. So all of that, like adjusting to the device, that is done by the encoding, by the streaming service, sorry. Anyway, so that is what I use. I give Mux the link, they encode it in different formats, and then because I also offer transcriptions, I fetch the video and I send it to, currently I use Assembly AI, and they do my speech to text transcription, and they're pretty good at that actually. Yeah. So that's the whole flow.
So I'm actually pretty familiar with Mux. I built a fitness marketplace where basically kind of like indie courses, but for like workouts and fitness programs. So I had like every time someone had an exercise, the coach would upload a video as well. Now I'm curious. I always just directly uploaded it to Mux. Do you think is the added cost of kind of keeping the backup on S3 worth it to you, or are there other reasons for doing it that way?
No, I just want to have the original, and I think like it doesn't cost a lot, to be honest, to have a video just lying around there. Like,
That's true.
Yeah, even for a very because also S3 has the different pricing tiers for the S3 buckets now. So I set mine to automatic, so it becomes cheaper the longer it just lies around. And it costs a couple of like maybe $2-3 to have a long video course on S3. But in my case, I want to keep it there because like I'm trying out Mux. I already had one or two, severe issues. Like not severe. Well, actually, in one situation, the video didn't work, so that was severe. But like it's a platform that I just want to not be 100% dependent on. And the same with Assembly AI. Like I built my system in such a way that I can relatively quickly replace Assembly AI for transcriptions with something like DeepGram, for example, which might have a better model, better pricing at one point, and so on. And for me, it doesn't matter which one I use as long as I have the data eventually. So that's my reason why I did that.
No, that's really smart. Because being tied to like Mux permanently is never a good feeling, which is like, that's why I don't like using like AWS services, just because you really get entangled into all the microservices, you know? So,
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's why. Actually, there was one other thing you mentioned earlier, which I found really important, because you now have a very long video course, but you're planning to do more shorter and more frequent video courses. And I think that is something that I'm observing as well, like with myself and with the other video course creators that I know, um, because creating a 2 hour video course is like so much easier than creating an 8 hour video course. And often you can give the same value almost as an 8 hour video course, because you might pick like a much more complicated topic, or you might dive deeper into one particular topic. So like I'm doing the same now. My next video course is probably going to be about how to integrate with Stripe, but like with Elixir, but it will go beyond like just a webhook thing, because I'm using Stripe Connect for indie courses, which is like when you sign up to the platform and you want to start selling, you have to verify your identity with Stripe, and they check that you're a real human, and then this is not a money laundering operation, which is basically KYC, know your customer. And using Stripe Connect is something like a very popular product if you resell anything for somebody else, but it is a very complex topic to get into, like a very complex product to implement. And I still get sometimes requests where people say, hey, I can't create an account in, I don't know, Uzbekistan or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, let me check Stripe documentation. And so that is something that I want to highlight as well. But my point being, like, I wanted to say that I think video courses are gonna, especially independent video courses, they're gonna become shorter, a bit more condensed. And that is also why I build indie courses in the way it is, because I want like to allow you as a creator to quickly sell a video course and not have to, fill out all the forms and create your own website for it and all these like things for every single video course. So it should be as easy as uploading something to YouTube, right? You just have a video, you upload it, you press publish, and next somebody can buy your video course. Yeah. And last thing I wanted to say, a feature that I have on the roadmap very soon is also that you can sell individual videos, not only whole video courses, but also individual 30-minute explanation videos about how to do, what you said earlier, like, sorry, I forgot your topic there, but
I think I said like one password authentication.
The magic link, the magic link authentication. Yeah, stuff like that. That is literally like a 15-20 minute video, 30 maybe. You could create like a short video about it on the afternoon on a Sunday, put it up, upload it for like 20, 30, maybe $50, depending on how important it is. And there you go. You have an info product. You might make a couple of $100 on the side, And that is something that I want to also move with indie courses towards too, because that I think is going to lower the barrier in general for people to create video content and sell it.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. And like, just to reiterate, like the small course is great because I get people just requesting the most random things every time. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That would make a really good like 2-hour course. And so that solves that problem. Now I am curious, you might already have this. If let's say I have like 5 courses on indie courses, do I have a URL for my content that I can be like, here are my courses?
Not quite yet, no. Like okay. They would all be in the same catalog, but that's something that I'm also looking into building, because especially with the shorter videos, it should be kind of like a YouTube channel where you can look for Jacob on indie courses, and then you see all the videos and video courses that you've published. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Not
awesome.
Yet, but it's a good feature request. Thank you.
I'm sure it was already on your roadmap. I was just kind of curious because it would be cool, like from my landing page, elixirmentor.com, if someone can just click on my courses and I can just, shoot over to my profile on indie courses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of these things where right now there are 2 video courses on indie courses. So if you click on discover, you see 2 things. Soon you will see 3 things. And once I get to more than the page can hold, then I have to figure out these solutions as well. So that's how I'm currently doing my prioritization.
Yeah. You have some time. I mean, hopefully not too much time. Well, let's get you a bunch of course creators onboarded.
I would love that. Yeah. Well, if anybody on the stream has video course or idea, just shoot me a message on Twitter or send me an email, info@peterullrich.com, and I'm very happy to talk about it.
Yeah, and I have all of Peter's links in the description of this stream, so you can find him. Definitely follow him on Twitter. He provides a lot of good content. And go and check out indiecourses.com. And you're about to see my course on there too. I'm going to be publishing that in the next couple hours, so that'll be cool.
All right, very exciting stuff.
All right,
thanks, Jacob.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this with me. And if anyone has any specific questions for Peter before we drop off, now is the time to shoot them over, and we can talk about them a little bit. We do have one question from Christian. He's wondering if CDN is handled by Mux, and I'm assuming so because they just kind of live stream content to you. So
yeah, exactly. That's one of the services they provide as well. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about latency, of getting the video to the user. Yeah, that's what you pay for.
Yeah. Now, Mux's documentation is amazing. So if you're doing anything with video, I highly suggest to check them out.
Yeah, and I mean, also let me know, if like people on the stream, if you're interested in having a short video course or something similar about how to do video streaming, like uploading, hosting, streaming in Elixir, and I would probably use Mux in that situation. Let me know. If there are enough people who say, yeah, I really want to buy it, I might actually take an afternoon or like a weekend and create it for you.
There you go. You can show them how to sign and encrypt streaming links too. That's always a cool little feature.
Yeah, Mux does it for you. Yeah, that was important for me because I also saw that there are websites out there by people who just buy the video course and then they download all the videos and then they kind of resell them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, even on Udemy, although Udemy has the best protection for your video, but like even they are, because eventually you see the data in your browser, so you kind of, need to be you can always download it. But Mux already does a lot of like that. They give pre-signed links that you can only watch for like 2 hours and then they expire. Even like everything, the subtitles, everything has a new encryption key. So they do a pretty good job at that. But it is one of these things that people even often forget. And then out of a sudden, the whole video course appears somewhere for like $5. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a problem because anytime you do anything over the web, there's always a pretty easy way to download it. But
exactly.
I guess it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, you lose some, you find some.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. You can find Peter on X. We'll just say Twitter. On Twitter. His website's below. Go to indiecourses.com to check out his new video platform. It's awesome. And again, thank you. I hope everyone has a really good weekend. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.